And in other news of this hour, a South African court has ordered police to investigate Zimbabwean officials who are accused of carrying out torture in the neighboring country. The case was brought before the Supreme Court of Appeal following allegations of torture of opposition parties in March 2007 in Zimbabwe. So how is it that one country can get involved in the affairs of another sovereign state? Joining me now to look at this is David Cote from Lawyers for Human Rights. David, thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Good morning. Okay,
firstly, this case, the background is simple. These Zimbabwean officials who do travel to South Africa, from what I understand, from time to time, and now the judge has said to the National Prosecuting Authority, you can act against them.
So what happened in 2008 is that our client submitted a dossier of evidence that showed that torture had taken place in Harare, and submitted that to both the SAPS and to the NPA for investigation. And then a year later, the SAPS came back and said, sorry, we're not going to investigate. We think it'd be too impossible, and because there's no connection here. So what we did then was go to the High Court to have that reviewed, and the High Court found in our favor and said that there is an obligation to investigate. And then that was taken on appeal by the state to the SCA, and then just yesterday we received a judgment that said that yes, indeed, you do have to conduct an investigation to the evidence.
But how does it work? Zimbabwe is an independent sovereign state, and these allegations of torture, as you said, has happened in Zimbabwe, not in South Africa. How can South Africa get involved?
So South Africa adopted the implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court Act, which is the South African legislation that allows us to apply the international court and the crimes connected with international crimes, such as crimes against humanity. So they do in fact form crimes in South Africa, and a South African court can prosecute them.
So the alleged torture would broadly fall under crimes against humanity category?
That's correct.
Okay, so how do you go about this now? I mean, the perpetrators do travel, from what was reported in court, in and out of South Africa. Are you expecting the National Prosecuting Authority of South Africa or the South African police now to arrest them the next time they are in South Africa?
Well, what we're at the stage now is investigation. We want them to do a proper investigation so that a case can be made against people who do come.
So who must do the investigation?
It's right now the South African Police Services with the assistance of the NPA.
And you expect them to go to Zimbabwe to do the investigation?
No, what the court has said is that you don't need to go to Zimbabwe to do the investigations. The evidence can be brought here. Our clients are willing to assist. They can bring witnesses. They've brought affidavits, other expert evidence to the attention of the police.
Okay, so your clients are now living in South Africa?
Yeah, well, some of them are. Our clients are the South African Litigation Center and the Zimbabwean Exiles Forum. There were two organizations that brought the evidence to the...
So one would expect that the Zimbabwean exiles will be the ones at the forefront of this case in terms of coming up with evidence of this torture.
Yeah, both organizations are able to do so. And there are other organizations and individuals who are also able to assist with the investigation and to bring the evidence that's necessary to the attention of the police.
I understand the whole issue around international crimes against humanity, or that jurisdiction that the International Criminal Court in The Hague has got on such cases. But we do have to think about, outside the legal framework, how can this affect relations? You know, Zimbabwe and South Africa have historical relations.
Well, indeed, there are historical relations, and those are political considerations. But what we cannot do is allow allegations of crimes to go uninvestigated and to go or allowed to be unaccountable. So we do want the SAPS to abide by their obligations under South African law to conduct these investigations.
Is this a precedent?
It is a precedent. The court very much said that it's the first of its kind that's been brought before a South African court. We also know in other jurisdictions that there haven't been that many cases regarding international crimes that have been brought before them. So it's probably the first in a long line of cases that will be brought just to clarify this area of the law.
Yeah. During the investigation that you say, the next step now involve the investigations, which the court has said must happen now by the NPA and the South African Police Services. If any of the alleged perpetrators are in South Africa, would you expect them to be arrested?
Once the evidence has been investigated, and if they do come to South Africa, then yes, we would expect the SAPS and the NPA to ask for a warrant from a court to arrest them and then to proceed with the prosecution.
Okay. So besides the investigation, what exactly is going to be happening next now for your client? What's the next steps?
Well, the next step is to engage with them to ensure that all the evidence is brought before the SAPS and to the MPA to ensure that there is a proper dossier and that they do take that evidence seriously and that they do proceed with the investigation. And then after that, really, it comes back to the state to decide what to do and whether there is reasonable prospects of conviction to take a case to court.
How long do you think this investigation would take?
It's very difficult to say. We submitted the dossier in 2008, that was 5 years ago, so we do hope that it won't be any more delays in the investigation, that it can happen right away.
Thank you very much. That's David Cote from Lawyers for Human Rights.
News that moves. eNCA.com.